The sun is shining, the temps are in the 80s. It's the kind of day tourists hope for all year long.
Welcome back to the state of football. Welcome back to my backyard, the Jersey Shore. Welcome back to college football season. Oh, baby, UAB with a big shebang last night. We got Temple Rutgers. We got college football kickoff. We got action. We got college football week 0 recap. We got college football week 1 preview. We got NFL news. We got predictions. We got Dane Vandernat, NFLPA Collegiate Bowl director. We've got Inside the League CEO Neil Stratton. We got a can't stop, won't stop situation. You might think it's Crazy Eddie, but it's actually RIC and a place to be, broadcasting live from New Jersey, around the universe, into your living room. We are so proud to be part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated, globally talking European League of Football, Canadian Football League yesterday, sprinkled in with a little hub football. Big shout out to Tommy Goodhines, who tunes in every day here in the chat room, and we were talking yesterday about the September 29th event. I'll have more details on that later on in the show. The ELF Championship, by the way, September 26th, now available on Ticketmaster, and the 2022 NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, just, I don't know, 6 months away, and we will count you down for the path to Pasadena each and every Thursday here with Dane Vandernat, Executive Director of the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, who joins us live each and every Thursday out there from the Kansas City area. Dane, I know it's the summer sun is kind of fading out here. We're dodging the hurricanes. I think we got 2 more days in the 80s in the 10-day forecast, and that's it over here. So the Northeast is rip raring, ready to go for football season. Let's check in with the weather report over there in the Midwest. Do you smell the pigskin yet there, Dane?
Hey, bud. Well, hey, first of all, hope everyone's safe, both down in the south there from Hurricane Ida, and then obviously up in your neck of the woods, man. It's pretty devastating to see some of the results of that hurricane. But out here in the Midwest, man, we're going strong. We've got good weather. We got a little weather coming in tonight, Rick, but hopefully not too much flooding in our horizon.
Yeah, it's been crazy to see all these tornadoes here in New Jersey. You would have thought we were in the Midwest. And Samantha behind the scenes producing down there at My Mom Lou's in good old Rose Hill, North Carolina. She dodged the storm. But Samantha, just so you know, there was hurricanes like ripping through the Princeton area, scenes that we're not used to seeing, in fact, here in New Jersey. So thoughts and prayers to all the people impacted around the great country, and all the folks in New Orleans without power. They just continue. You've got passion and love for staying in a city that just continues to get beaten down to the nitty gritty. Seriously, shout out to all those New Orleans people. Shout out to the college football season here on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated weekdays. 9 a.m. Eastern, man. We're so revved up, ready to go. It's unbelievable, Dane. And we got through all of our positional previews. We did a countdown for the month of August, and now flips the calendar in September. We're going to get into some of the players who have stood out thus far in this young college football season. We'll take a look at a featured matchup this upcoming week. But last Friday was the official release of the 2022 NFLPA Collegiate Bowl Big Board watch list. I know I've been getting hit up all week long for the players who did not make it. And I think it's important for us to explain to the listening audience at home, to all the stakeholders, whether it's a school, a player, a parent, an agent, whoever's out there, understand there's a lot of football left to be played. So even though there's a player you might not see listed on the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, guess what, everybody? Breaking news. Won't be the first time, won't be the last time a player not on our initial watch list actually gets invited to the roster, Dane, but I'll let you elaborate a little bit more on that one.
Yeah, well, obviously, Rick, as we know, man, we had to kind of cut the list somewhere, right? And we have lists of thousands and thousands of prospects thanks to NFL Draft Bible and some of our other partners. So, for us, we got it down to approximately 540 players, but that doesn't mean it encompasses everybody, right? It's not an inclusive list. We have thousands, literally more guys from every school that we're going to be watching, that we have on our radar, that we want to see if they're going to make a big step this year. I always tell guys the tale of Joe Burrow that went into the 2019 season as a projected 6th, 7th round priority free agent type guy. And because of the magic he was able to orchestrate as a senior, he changed the narrative. He changed his value to obviously number one overall and literally tens of millions of dollars in differences on his rookie contract. So while obviously quarterback is a sexy position and offensive guards aren't likely to go from priority free agent to first overall, it's still a good illustration that, hey, you know what? There's a reason we play the games. We still have the entire season. As I tweeted out the other day, Rick, this is just a starting point, and it's on all of these players to change our opinions from here on out, man. I'm really looking forward to that process and seeing these guys shine as seniors.
Yeah, and it's a super senior class. I mean, so many players, to your point, it's usually about 2,500 players in total on a normal year. There could be maybe 3,500 players in this year's draft pool. It's going to be that deep, that talented. And hey, believe you me, we're watching, we're paying attention, we hear you. Don't think just because they're not on the watch list that they're not on our radar. And if you're talented, believe me, we'll hear about you, we'll find you, we'll come see you, and you'll get that invite over to the granddaddy of them all over at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena coming January 2022. Of course, on the NFL Network. Of course, in captured with NFL PAU, a great experience with all the former players, Hall of Fame coaches, assistant coaches, all the players flown in throughout the week. We had nearly 300 scouts in attendance 2 years ago. This will be the 10-year anniversary game. 11th edition. Of course, last year, 43 players being selected in the 2021 NFL Draft. And, to your point, Dan, when you were just talking, I was thinking about Cutdown Day this Tuesday, going back, seeing, hey, this guy, like Quincy Roche, people were talking about him as a possible first-round pick, right? He goes undrafted. He's already on his second team.
Yeah.
And,
Marvin
I hate
Wilson, same thing, right? I
mean,
this guy's...
And there was guys last year that we that were nowhere near the radar that now made 53-man rosters. And so just keep grinding, keep shining. Eventually, your opportunity is going to come, whether it's at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl or somewhere else. And I'll go back to Carson Palmer. You had both the Blesto and the National, I believe, his senior year. Didn't even write him up, put a grade on him, wasn't even listed. He goes on to become the number one overall pick. So, and that wasn't the first time or the last time. So, hey, it's the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network here on Sports Illustrated. We're going to bring you some movers and shakers, some guys that we're keeping an eye on, some surprise players who were not initially on that watch list that are grabbing our attention, and we do that each and every Thursday throughout the football season. If you're new to the State of Football, welcome aboard, buckle up, and if you're a draftnik, if you like scout talk, if you like in-depth player analysis, nobody who comes on this show and any show on the media world breaks down prospects as well as Dane Vandernat, so we're lucky to have him each and every Thursday. And so here we are, Dane, UAB, I think 35-0 or something to that effect last night. They get on the board. We saw week 0, some players grabbing our attention. In fact, here's another comment I got so often. Hey, so and so was on the Senior Bowl watch list. Why didn't he make yours? It's like, hey, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We're not over here copying what the Senior Bowl does. And quarterback, over there at Fresno State didn't even make the Senior Bowl watch list, but he made ours. So, hey, we're still early in the process, Dane. And so, with that being said, who are some of these players here in Week 0 that caught your attention? Who a little bit annoyed and got out in front with, taking advantage of the Week 0 all eyeballs on you early in the season.
Hey, Rick, I apologize. I lost you there. What question are you asking? I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I was saying Week 0, we saw a handful of players, and some that are kind of under the radar. They took advantage of that national spotlight early on in the season. Who stood out to you? Who caught your attention?
Yeah, well, obviously starting with our very first game to kick off the season with Illinois and Nebraska. Obviously turned out to be a little less competitive for much of the game than I think some people would have hoped. But you did see Nebraska storm back in the end. But a couple guys for the Illini that stood out to me. Linebacker Jake Hansen, a guy that we're well familiar with, the super senior returning. I thought he had great presence to the ball, but really it was nose guard Roderick Perry that – really kind of stood out to me, made an impact. I thought he had a lot more of his upfield, whereas last year he flashed a little bit. Former South Carolina State transfer, played last year with the Illini in his first year, returned this year to Illinois. And, Roderick Perry, I see, not really as a refined pass rusher. Most nose guards aren't. And we all know that in today's pass-happy NFL, they're typically replaced by defensive ends that are reducing down inside. But I thought that Rod Perry, 3 tackles, including a sack against a very mobile Nebraska quarterback in Adrian Martinez. I thought he kind of showed out for the Illini. For the Cornhuskers, defensive tackle Damian Daniels, younger brother of 49er Darian Daniels that came out 2 years ago from Nebraska. I thought the Nebraska defense, their front seven was tremendous against the Illini. Obviously knocked out Brandon Peters, unfortunately. Really wishing Brandon expeditious and full recovery from his injury. But Damian Daniels for me, 6 tackles, 1 for a loss for a 325-pound man, Rick. I thought he was all over that front for them, really made his presence felt. In the secondary for Nebraska, defensive back Cam Taylor-Britt, you flashed the coverage, didn't get targeted a ton, showed up on special teams, also a punt returner. We know that when you have that ability, it only adds value in the eyes of NFL talent evaluators. As we talk about 53-man reductions this week, it's all about the more you can do. When you have the opportunity to be a punt returner, to be a mainstay on special teams, and to be able to play on defense, you're really adding and building a case. You mentioned Fresno State. I guess we can jump down there with Jake Haener. Obviously showed off that big arm of his, 20 of 26 for 331 and 3 touchdowns in that blowout of UConn. Rick, I thought the Northeast was supposed to come with it. But UConn, apparently their season starts Saturday. So, but Jake Haener, Ronnie Rivers, another running back on our list, didn't have a big day on the ground of 13:58, but what Ronnie Rivers brings is that scat back, third down back, ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, contribute in the pass game. You saw him rip off 2 receptions for 66 yards, including a touchdown that set him as Fresno State's all-time leader in touchdowns. So congrats to Ronnie Rivers. But San Jose State, Rick, I know you were telling me about Nick Starkel a couple years back. I thought, he's only continued to impress. Threw for 394 yards and 4 touchdowns, rushed for a 5th touchdown, completed nearly 60% of his throws against FCS foe Southern Utah. I thought that he and even Derek Deese, the teammate, Derek Deese Jr., 3 for 72 and a touchdown. I want to see a little more explosion out of Derek Deese this year. So I hope that, that's a good sign of things to come. Want to see him really be able to elevate his opportunity as that receiving type tight end. So anxious to continue to follow these guys. But as far as Week 0 is concerned, Rick, those guys kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, watch out for that Nick Starkel boy. I know the Trojans are the USC Trojans are 2 touchdown favorites over the Spartans this week. Watch out. I don't know. That's a lot of points. I think that game is going to be closer than what people are anticipating. They got some firepower now. And you mentioned Deese, who, if you're my age and listening at home, you remember his father for the San Francisco 49ers back during their Super Bowl days, and the coaching staff spoke very highly of him. And to your point, yes, he has flashed the pro level potential. This is the year where we're kind of hoping the light bulb goes on, everything clicks, so to speak, and he kind of takes that next step because he does have, some interest and love in the scouting community there. Going back to the Nebraska Illinois game, Daniels, I mean, it just seems like there's a pipeline of these Daniels kids coming through Nebraska out there, but I thought it was a couple interesting things. Peters goes down. Did not realize Arthur Stikowski, the former Rutgers quarterback, had resurfaced in the Big Ten there with Brett Bielema. And so the California cool kid showed some good poise, surprisingly. So maybe the change of scenery. He was very heralded coming out of high school, I think like a 4 or 5-star recruit. Didn't work out at Rutgers. He also was playing behind a very porous offensive line there. So it was good to see him back in the saddle. And then Samuel Toure sighting I saw there for Nebraska. I think, trying to find him ways to get the ball in his hands. A little bit of a gadget guy maybe, but somebody who was a big-time playmaker at Montana at the FCS level a couple years ago. And so we're keeping an eye on that young man as well. Big shout out to Lorenz Leinweber, our senior scout across the pond, who brings it with the Prospect Profits. Yes, the legendary headset is back while Samantha is on hiatus down in the Kakalakis of North Carolina. I'm back, fending for myself over here, setting up my own audio. So we're piecing it together. We're always chopping it up, talking football. That's what we do here each and every Thursday with Dane Vandernat. Dane, a lot of very fun matchups coming up this weekend. Temple at Rutgers is exciting for me.
Big Super Bowl.
Well, yeah. So it's really interesting to see though, because this time a year ago, before Rutgers even played a game, I'm sure it would have been pretty much consensus that Temple had the better football team. And here we are a year later. And again, I mean, I'm driving that Rutgers wagon over here, but 2 touchdowns, 14.5 points, that's a lot of points. I don't know if the separation is that great. And if it is, wow, look out. But I'm looking forward to that one. That's actually tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern before all the there's a whole slate of games going on tonight. A lot to get into there, but a lot of big games. Even Friday night, you got North Carolina at Virginia Tech. A lot of eyeballs will be on that one. Michigan State at Northwestern. A little Big Ten action on a Friday night. I don't recall that happening too much. And then, of course, Saturday there's a slew of games. Give me a game here that you'll be looking forward to.
Man, I got one for you every day, Rick, including tonight. I know you'll have your eyes glued to that Temple game, but we got Ohio State at Minnesota. There's a lot of talk about Minnesota. PJ Fleck, another year. Is this going to be his year? Return a veteran signal caller in Tanner Morgan. Have that offensive line. Can they row that boat, Rick, and slow down that Ohio State defense? Can they keep pace? I mean, can they at least make this game competitive? It's a home game for the Golden Gophers. If they're going to have an opportunity, Rick, it's going to be right now. So I'm going to be watching that one tonight. Again, I'm going to be keying on that O-line. We got 4 prospects on that Minnesota Golden Gopher offensive line for us. So I want to see how they're going to hold up. We have Penn State at Wisconsin, Rick, here on Saturday. Nittany Lions have a new offensive coordinator. He's supposed to enable Sean Clifford to let it rip and get that Penn State offense going. Is he going to be able to get absolute wonder in playmaking wide receiver Jahan Dotson the ball enough, or will Jim Leonard's defense do what they've historically done and shut them down and put some pressure on Sean Clifford and co? I also want to see that new Penn State edge rusher, Rick. I think he just transferred up the boardwalk there from Temple, but Arnold Ebiketie, he's going against two future offensive linemen for the Badgers, and Tyler Beach and Logan Bruss. Want to see his ability, if he can get going quickly and really showcase a lot of what he showed last year for Temple. Also on Saturday, we got the big boys in Alabama at Miami. Derek King's final season to really prove to NFL evaluators that he can play quarterback, right? I know there's a lot of talk. Is he a slot wide receiver? Is he going to be an Antoine Randall L type guy? He wants to play quarterback. Standing at 5'8" and some change, it's going to be tough in the NFL. So he's got to show that he can go through a pass progression and not just look one way and then tuck the ball and run. That's his key for this season, to show that he can play quarterback and problem solve with his arm rather than his legs. He's got new Oklahoma transfer wide receiver Charleston Rambo to throw the ball to. They're returning running back Cameron Harris, fellow wideout D. Wiggins, tight end Mike Mallory. I want to see if this Hurricane offense can really put some pressure on that Alabama D. And then obviously Clemson, Georgia, Rick, Saturday night, a big one. Man, we've got 13 Bulldogs and 11 Tigers on the NFLPA Bowl watch list, all right? We got 24 players combined that are seniors or grad students just for us to evaluate. I can't wait to see this one, Bigs versus Bigs. It's going to be a big-time matchup under the lights. Whole country will be watching. Really, when you talk about these big-time FBS programs, you don't want to see them play cupcake schedules early on when they do non-conference. We want to see these guys go compete against the best. Saturday night, Clemson, Georgia, we get that. And then, just a couple more, Rick, real quick. LSU, UCLA, which team's for real? Is it Chip Kelly or is Ed Ogeron going to be able to bring that magic back to the Bayou? And then Fresno, Oregon. We saw Fresno, dismantle UConn last week. Are they going to be able to contend with an Oregon team that has some national aspirations of their own?
I'm taking notes. I'm trying to keep up with Dane Vandernat here, executive director of the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. A couple of cool matchups here early on. I mean, Georgia, Clemson, you mentioned. It almost feels like a desperation game for Georgia early on because, could they I think Clemson, if they lose, Clemson could probably rebound because they'll dominate the ACC. But if Georgia loses this game, man, that's going to be tough to get back into the college football playoff hunt. And 24 players you mentioned. Wow. Alabama and Miami. I think I could be wrong. The coach down there for the Hurricanes, who's slipping my mind, but I think he's closed the gap here a little bit. And I'm going to go with Lorenz Lineweber, who's in the chat room saying, hey, this Alabama offense, not as explosive as years past. I don't know. Maybe this is going to be a little bit closer than people are anticipating. One game that I do think is going to be closer than people have it. In fact, they're underdogs, but I think Nevada might even win the game outright against Cal with Carson Strong, big-armed quarterback there. Look out for that young man. And then you mentioned being tested early, having a tough schedule. We saw Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the UCLA quarterback, last week. Really, I don't want to say he stumbled out of the gates because I think they took care of business, but didn't really have that glamorous game. Now he has an opportunity against LSU to kind of recapture some of the momentum from last season. Did you get a chance to see any of DTR, and what do you make of this matchup against LSU, who always brings a stellar defense?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, right? I mean, DTR was 50% passing against Hawaii last Saturday. You want to see that completion percentage higher. Obviously, in today's football, we're throwing a lot of bubble screens. We're throwing a lot of short passes. So we expect you to be in the more, 60 percentile range. So to only be at 50%, I think he was 10 of 20 against Hawaii. They routed Hawaii. That game wasn't competitive. It should have been higher. DTR is very talented. He's exceptionally high on our, on our list, as you know, Rick. So I really want to see him succeed. I want to see him do well. I want to see him stay at the Rose Bowl in January and, come play not only in the Rose Bowl game, but, come play in the NFLPA Bowl itself. But, want to see him elevate. And hopefully, hey, he's going to rise as his level of competition does this Saturday against LSU.
Yeah, great matchup there. And keep an eye on Calvin Turner out of Hawaii. Kind of do it all. A former quarterback, now wide receiver, kick return, punt return. Another one of these gadget guys that you just want to try to find a way to get him in space with the ball in his hands. All right, Dane, let's see if I got anything else here for you. I will say, too, I think you could see a lot of upsets in week one. Like Wisconsin is pretty good favorite, almost a touchdown over Penn State. I think the Nittany Lions have a shot to win that game. You know, San Jose State, don't count them out against USC. Nevada and Cal, again, another very close game where the underdog might prevail. So a lot of exciting matchups. We're looking forward to them. You mentioned the Minnesota-Ohio State game is tonight. So there's going to be a lot of talent on the field in that one. I'll try to get to some of the pick'ems before we wrap up the end of the show. But before we let you go, before we get to Neil Stratton, who's waiting patiently in the virtual green room, Dan, I got to get your thoughts on the cut down, and we could spend a whole hour on it. But being a former director of pro personnel for the Oakland Raiders, cut down day, always a tough day. Maybe let's take it two parts here. We'll get to some of the NFLPA players who made teams and talk about that. But first, on the personnel side, we had Russell Landy on Tuesday, and Craig T. Smith in the chat room sharing stories of having to break the news to the young men who aspire to be professional football players. And what a tough day NFL cut down day is. Take us through that process. What was it like for you? Obviously, a long time in that Raiders building. You have any stories? Did you ever have to personally deliver the news? Any stories there that kind of stick with you?
Too many times I had to deliver that news. And, it's one of those where you're thankful to be working your way up in the organization, but then all of a sudden it falls on you to start cutting players. And it's absolutely the worst day of the year for NFL personnel. And, my face would break out every single September, Rick, as we approached NFL Cutdown Day, just because it would stress me out so much of, hey, I'm going to have to talk to a dozen plus players and tell them that they're unemployed and that everything they've worked for the last 4 or 5 months in OTAs and mini camps and training camp and the preseason, it's all resulting in you losing your opportunity to receive a game check. Because a lot of the people don't understand that you don't get paid as an NFL player until the games in the regular season get played. So these guys, even though they're signing $600,000+ contracts, they're only making a couple $100 a week in per diem until the September rolls around and you make the team. Then you start earning those big bucks. But for all the rest of those guys, they may be 3-4 years in the league and they've never played a regular season game and actually gotten one of those checks. So it's absolutely devastating. I don't have any terrible stories. We have some of Ron Wolf getting chased around the table for the Raiders back in the day when he cut one of the players. But, fortunately, you get guys that break down and, are crying, and the other guys are just venting their frustration at you. But you know what? The good news is days like yesterday, days like today, you get to call up 16 new guys and tell them, hey, look, we have an opportunity for you on the practice squad, or we're going to fly you out. We want to work you out and give you an opportunity. So while it's always a solemn day on Cutdown Day, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And now you get to provide some opportunities for some guys after that.
Man, I could only imagine some of those conversations. There's no easy way to have it. So thanks for that insight there, Dane. I know the chat room is appreciating that perspective, as well as the listening audience. And on a more positive note, a lot of young men from the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl earning themselves a spot on the 53-man roster this week. Let's highlight some of those young men.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Rick, we're going to do that all throughout the week here, especially as we lead up to the regular season. You know, we all know that unfortunately, as guys get claimed and as guys get added to rosters, it means somebody gets cut. So, unfortunately, you know, some of the guys, if you're number 53 or 52 on the roster, your spot isn't necessarily in concrete. But really happy for all of our guys that made 53s. I know I tweeted out yesterday that Derek Forrest, safety out of Cincinnati, who was drafted by Washington. He made their 53 roster. We talked and highlighted him last year, Rick, throughout the season as a guy that had those intangible qualities to make it on special teams. And, you know, as we talk about ad nauseum, if you're not a starter on offense or defense, you better have a role in special teams. Excited for Derek Forrest for making it. Late round draft pick. It's not easy. He plays for a defensive-minded head coach in Ron Rivera. You know, he's got a former head coach. Or he's got a D coordinator who's a former head coach in Jack Del Rio that I was with at the Raiders. And it's a demanding opportunity, but really proud of him for making that. We have a whole slew of guys that have as well. And as I said, we'll kind of highlight some of those throughout the week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the tally winds up being here for the opening kickoff. Wow, just what are we, 9, 10 days away from NFL? I guess a week from today, right? Technically, will be the Buccaneers and Cowboys for the NFL kickoff. 1 week to go. We'll break it down right here with Dane Vandernat, Executive Director of the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, of course, former Pro Personnel Director at the Oakland Raiders. Dane, parting shot. I know we're going to start having a lot more content coming up on the website. We'll be highlighting additional players there each week, players that are grabbing our attention. Some of these video snippets and player prospect breakdowns, if you didn't catch it in its entirety, you can go back, watch the replay at collegiate.nflpa.com. Anything else you want to add here before we let you go?
Just thank God college football is back, Rick. As we talked about earlier, hope everyone's staying safe and has an opportunity to watch this incredible slate of games this tonight, tomorrow. I mean, shoot, Rick. I mean, we got App State and East Carolina tonight. You know, talk about a couple, you know, under the radar teams that could really do well in not only their conference, but on the national stage. I mean, just some incredible slate of games to watch. I can't wait. So many prospects that I know that Zach and Lorenz and the guys with, Draft Bible are going to be talking about, highlighting on, prospects and everyone. So anxious to get it all underway, Rick. Love getting on here, man, and even love the more that we get to talk about real games happening again. You're muted, bud.
I'm looking forward to it. It's an exciting time of year. I thought Samantha had my back there. And, the prospect profits, Lorenz is saying, hey, the games are starting 2 a.m. He's going to be just doing shots of espresso, watching it over there from across the pond. But we can't get enough of it. And we appreciate the time here each and every Thursday on the State of Football. That is Dane Vandernat. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter, by the way, at D Vandernat, right, Dane?
Yes, sir. You got it.
At D Vandernat. Do it now, because if you're not, then you're just not doing it right. Always appreciate it, Daner.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. That's Dane Vandernat. So, it's funny. Tom Goodhines, Senior Vice President of the Hub Football in the chat room, saying 32 teams, 53 active, 16 practice squad. That's 2208. And taking the practice squad out of it, it's funny because we were talking to Coach Schiano at Rutgers, I don't know, about a week or two ago, and he was saying, hey, I said, Coach, any idea, the seniors, anybody say they're coming back? Anybody let you know they're leaving? Hey, 1696. 1696, he says, that's what I keep telling my guys. That's how many people are privileged enough to play in the National Football League. He said, hey, let's get halfway through the season, and then we'll talk about it. So very few active roster spots. And, hey, if you are suddenly a street free agent, check it out, hubfootball.com. September 29th, slots are filling up extremely quick. I'm having trouble keeping up with the applications. A lot of veterans now looking to get out to the hub after that last one where we had about a dozen scouts, including 7 NFL teams in attendance. So September 29th is the next date for that, hubfootball.com. Also, if you're a player looking for your video package, do it prior to the event. I want to be clear on that because we have so many players purchasing the video package after the event, which it costs money because our poor super producer behind the scenes, Samantha, has to do a lot more editing work when it's after the fact. If we know ahead of time, we're giving you that price discount, and they have dropped it even further now from 600 down to 500. So after the event, it's 750. Take advantage of that. You save yourself a lot of money because what happens is you come out, you do well. Yes, we send all the raw footage to the teams, but then the player wants their film because they did really well, understandably so, and now you're paying more for that. So make sure you take advantage, get the Hub Film package ahead of time. And Samantha, I appreciate you popping up the website there because also the Hub Scout Camp. This is something new now, and hubfootball.com /scout dash camp. If you can get that link up there, Samantha. This is going to be a new feature at the Hub Scout Camp. At the Hub Football Camp is going to be Hub Scout Camp featuring Russell Landy, who joins us here each and every Tuesday. Of course, he's been teaching the football GM and scouting seminar along with Mark Dominic and John Wooten for the past 14 years. But if you are looking to break into the scouting industry, if you are trying to go on to the next level, if you have completed the Sports Management Worldwide program or taken Baldy's breakdowns, or finished watching Friday Night Scout School, or sat in on some of the seminars that our next guest has orchestrated with InsideTheLeague.com. Maybe now it's time for you to find out if you're really made for the field, right? Come cut your teeth out in the field trying to identify real pro talent. And 1 out of 4 guys, I think we were hovering around 23% of Hub football attendees actually signing an NFL or CFL contract. So 1 out of 4 is making a team. Can you identify who those players are? It's a tough deal. And oh, by the way, it's an event that was founded by Don Yee, Tom Goodhines, who you see there in the chat room, providing you the link, will be out there on location. I will also be in attendance and part of that Hub Scout Camp. And again, you'll be right there with all the scouts, rubbing elbows, chatting it up, exchanging business cards, and then it's up to you to kind of utilize that platform, parlay those networking opportunities and those contacts, and figure it out. Right? I mean, if you listen to how scouts get a start in this business, that's always a cool story because I think every scout I've ever spoken to, I asked them how they got their start in the business. I've never heard 2 stories that are the same. So, you know, take advantage of it. Hubfootball.com. We're coming at you September 29th. I've suspended all my travel obligations for this upcoming season right now, but I will be out at Hub Football, which will be in Los Angeles, by the way. Moving on up north a little bit there in LAX. So that's the Hub Football. Shout out to all my chat room people, Tom Goodhines, Craig T. Smith, Lorenz. Craig, I appreciate it. Yes, we're safe here. In fact, I got out of the Jersey Shore since Samantha went down to North Carolina. I'm actually up at my mom's house. I have not been back home to see what the damage is like. I'm hoping for the best. I didn't hear anything from the neighbors, so I'm assuming we're all good. But what's crazy is the tornadoes, like in Princeton, in central, like mid-Jersey, there was all kinds of tornadoes ripping off. And again, it's just not a scene that we're used to seeing here in New Jersey. So, I appreciate it. Again, I saw some horrific scenes. People's houses completely gone. People's houses halfway gone. And then, of course, all the people down in New Orleans without power and flooding and all kinds of just atrocity. Um, it's that time of year, hurricane season, man. Always a tough time. But hey, we're going to focus on the good times right now because it's football season. September has arrived, the calendar has turned. And here to talk with the agent and scouting side of the industry is Neil Stratton. He is the CEO of InsideTheLeague.com. Good morning, Neil. Hopefully, all is well down there in the Katy, Texas, Houston area. How are you today?
Probably a little better than you, man. I'm sorry about the flooding has hit the Northeast, and just like you said, I guess it's a little bit of a new experience for y'all down here. We never really get too comfortable from pretty much from June through November. You got to expect that kind of stuff, but I know that's a little different for y'all, and I'm sorry that y'all are having to deal with it.
Yeah, it's crazy, I mean, just a couple weeks ago too, the middle of the night, we're getting all these tornado warnings, like literally
Mm.
for our hometown, and it's like, hey, Samantha, wake up! Like, yeah, we might need to be on alert over here. Like, I keep getting tornado warnings, and like that's never happened to us here in New Jersey. So, wild stuff happening. Wild stuff happening in the football community, Neil. I mean, week 0 kicked off last week. We're now officially underway, a week away from the NFL season. College football in full effect tonight. Let's start off on the NFL side of things. We were talking to Dane Vandernat about Cutdown Day. Teams now in the process of assembling their practice squad rosters. It's always intriguing to see who gets picked up. Always a ton of surprises. And we were talking about it. Hey, this time a year ago, we were talking about player X is going to be drafted here. He goes undrafted. A guy that was completely off the radar, he gets picked up. What are you finding from these practice squad assemblations?
Well, we kind of done compiling it late last night, kind of our first review. There's a lot of numbers there, obviously a lot of different people, a lot of things going on. Practice squads are finalized yesterday, so we'll kind of dig into that in our blog this week on our Succeed in Football. Kind of take a look at the numbers for the class. I mean, as exciting as the draft is, to me, when practice squads are filled out and the 53s are turned in, that's kind of when you get your grades for the draft. At least the initial grades. I think really probably not 5 years on will we actually know, but it's always fun, I think, to really dig into who went where, who landed where, which draft picks didn't make a roster, which ones didn't make the roster, the 53, but made practice squads, which ones didn't make it at all. Those are the true misses there. So we'll take a look at that in our blog today and kind of draw a few conclusions and make a few assumptions about things, and kind of put that together. I'm looking forward to digging it into it myself. I think over 300 players that made it from a tight draft class. We talked about that at length, obviously, but we'll talk about the survivors and who they are and what they look like, and kind of look at all the ins and outs of that.
No, I'm interested to see, the deep dive with the NFL Week 1 rosters. I always like seeing the breakdowns, who's drafted, who's undrafted, who came from this school, who came from the various All-Star games. I'll be tuning in to see that one as well, and it'll take some time. And really, I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard to really gauge that until you actually have the official Week 1 rosters, right? Because
Yeah,
there's still going to be some tweaking, some turning, and
exactly.
some moving and shaking, right? So, all right, Neil Stratton, InsideTheLeague.com. Make sure you check that out. SucceedInFootball.com. You saw the free blog, free advice, how to succeed in football. Take advantage of that. If you're a scout, if you're an agent, if you're just a insurance provider, a financial advisor, a parent of a player, just tons and tons of nuggets of information you see there. Name, image, and likeness notes, which is becoming a very big deal in both the college football and agent community. All right, Neil, I know you're on a mission to try to find out and identify the first ever, team poll. Who are the best scouts? Who does the best job of discovering talent? Obviously, this is a subject to opinion, but we're trying to identify the teams that do it the best. Historically, off the top of my head, you know, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Steelers, those are teams that traditionally have done a good job in my head. But the
Mm-hmm.
league is changing. The league is evolving. There's a lot of new names in these front offices.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of youth in the front
Mhm.
offices more than I can ever remember.
Mhm.
So how are we gonna find out and get a consensus here?
It's going to be kind of baseball all-star game style. We're going to list. I think what right now the dividing line is going to be if you've been in the league for 5 years in a scouting capacity, then you'll be on the ballot. We're going to break it down by AFC and NFC, and we're going to put it out there. We're going to submit it for 4 weeks, starting this weekend, with all active scouts. They'll all get a vote, and they get to vote once, and it'll be interesting to see if the scouts that wind up getting. I mean, we're going to take the top 10 from each conference. Are those guys going to be the ones that are the most senior scouts that have been out there? Are they going to be more guys that are with the better teams? Will it be total outliers, people that we didn't expect to hear? Last year we kind of did a feature on, we talked to people across the game, and last spring and talked about GM candidates, who are the hot people, who is talking about whom, and who likes people, and who are the ones that are kind of that the scouts like that maybe aren't as visible in the media and what have you. I look at this as another way to kind of vet those same people and find out who the rising stars are among the people that are among their peers, among the ones that are doing the job. And I think that's always maybe a bit more valid than just what you read about in the headlines and that kind of thing. So we're hopeful that we get a good response on this. I would like to get at least a tenth, I'm sorry, a fourth of the scouting community. There's right around about 20 scouts per team. So, at 32 teams, you're looking at around, what is that? 600? Is that right? Am I doing my math right? That seems a little high. But the point is, we're gonna try to get as many people as we can to vote, just among the active evaluators, and see what they tell us as far as who's good and who deserves some recognition.
Yeah, I think the number we came up with, this is when the CFL and XFL were both up and running, including the NFL. I think there were 750
Okay.
GM slash scouting jobs now.
Hmm.
I don't know how many of that was XFL versus CFL, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think you're right in that ballpark area. All right, so from the NFL to the NFL scouting community, let's now shift gears over into, and by the way, the Friday wrap, which comes out every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Go to InsideTheLeague.com. Make sure you get linked up for that. You did a great job there remembering Danton Bart's O'Neill, and we thank you for that in last week's Friday wrap.
For
Um,
sure.
so let's move on to Rep Rumblings, into the kind of NFL draft, collegiate all-star game circuit. Some moving and shaking, some old friends, some familiar faces I see getting back into the all-star circuit.
Yeah, Damon Talbot's the new kind of personnel head for the Hula Bowl. The Hula, as you know, has moved to Orlando this year. It won't be in Hawaii anymore for the first, I think it's the first time ever that it won't be in Hawaii. Damon Talbot's, so Damon's going to run it. Damon's with Draft Diamonds. He's been a veteran of the scouting, the online scouting community, draft Twitter, whatever you want to call it, for a long time. He's had roles with the Shrine Bowl as well as with the CGS. So this is not going to be something new to him. He's a great guy. Been a big fan of Damon for a long time. Tremendous, huge Twitter following that I really am envious of. Um, we're really rooting for him and looking forward to seeing, kind of how he puts his footprint on the Hula Bowl and how he kind of changes things there. So that's coming. Doug Whaley is the new senior advisor to Eric Galco at the Shrine Bowl. It's exciting to see Doug kind of return to the game in some capacity. Eric and Doug worked together in the XFL. Doug's one of the true gentlemen of the game. He's been a longtime friend of ITL, a real class act, and so excited to see that happening, and to see kind of how he helps Eric there. And then we also tracked 20 players who made agent changes during the month of June. We're still trying to catch up on our backlog there, but it's kind of high for the summer and getting close to roster reduction, those kind of things. Usually you're seeing more players are kind of focused on getting ready for the coming season. So maybe a little bit more volatility than what we're expecting. We'll look at July and August in the coming weeks and try to get that figured out as well as we try to catch up, get ready for the coming season.
A lot to unpack there, Neil. A lot to unpack there. So let's talk about it, one at a time. The Hula Bowl and Damon Talbot, good people. Um, Did I see that they are the same week as the Senior Bowl? So will they be having the
I
same?
believe they're the week before. It's a really tight schedule this year. It's the same weekend as the Tropical Bowl, which will also be played in Orlando this year. It's actually the same date. So scouts are going to have to kind of be judicious in their time. They're going to be driving back and forth, I guess, between the fields during practices that week. So you'll have two games in Orlando, followed shortly after by the Shrine Bowl in Vegas, obviously, and then the Senior Bowl quickly after that. It is a very packed All-Star schedule this year. I believe there are 6 games, something along those lines, which is 6 games that I think are going to be worthy of scout coverage, that have veteran people that are doing things, that are going to be representative and have representative rosters. Of course, the HBCU bowl game will come online this year. So just a lot to be aware of, a lot to know about. If you're a player this year, you've got a lot of opportunities. I mean, shoot, if you're a player who's been cut, there's a lot of opportunities with Hub now, and you had Dean Dalton on, I believe, last week or the week before. So just a lot of things that surround the game, and I think more opportunities than ever for aspiring NFL players, and that's exciting, obviously.
Yeah, we spoke to Dean Dalton. I did not know it was really just strictly for O-line, D-line, and running backs, which is pretty good
Oh, is that
idea
right?
though.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
yeah. So, which makes sense, right? Because you can never find, especially O-line. There's never enough of them. But
Absolutely.
those guys up
Absolutely.
front, those big 6'5", 300 developmental players need help. So
Mm-hmm.
bring in Chuck Smith, bring in Mike Tice. Sounds like a pretty good idea.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, so listen, you said that Tropical Bowl and Hula Bowl now will be pretty much playing on the same days. Any idea if the game coordinators are trying to work together to make it easier for scouts? Because that would seem like the logical thing to do.
I don't think Michael has any plans on that, and I'm not sure if Damon has addressed that. There's always that rivalry, I think, among games that are kind of competing for the same players, and so I don't know. It's a great question to ask. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'd love to see it. I mean, we're all kind of brothers in arms when it comes to this thing. You are too, in your capacity with the NFLPA Bowl. So I would love to see a coordination there. It's just that because there's some rivalry and some butting of heads, I don't know if that's going to happen. It would be better for the players, it'd be better for the game. But when you're competing for the same players so often, there tend to be some raw nerves there in early January, mid-January. Having anyone who's run one of these games, been involved with the games, kind of knows what I'm talking about. And so I don't know. I'm hopeful that there's some way to make the most opportunities for players and for scouts to see the maximum number of players, but we'll have to see how it all kind of works itself out.
Well, I will advocate for these guys putting their personal agendas aside. Yes, you're going to lose out players, vice versa. Who's going to go here? Who's going to go there? But at the end of the day, you got to have the vision to see beyond your personal agenda and
Absolutely.
understand that in terms of the event, the best overall decision for both games is to coordinate the schedules and allow
Mm-hmm.
for the commute and driving time so scouts can kill two birds with one stone.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get so much appreciation from the scouting community. That's what it's all about. Getting
Mm-hmm.
those scouts there. Because if you don't get those scouts there, then you're doing the players who are participating in your game a disservice. So F all the BS. Guys,
Mm-hmm.
huddle up, get that right, get that tight. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. All right, and speaking of which, like Eric Galco and Doug Whaley at the East-West Shrine Bowl, I talked to those guys. We're going to lose out guys. Hopefully they lose out guys to us. Who cares? There's so
Mm-hmm.
many players out.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see Doug back into the fold. Not necessarily good to see him competing for the same players, but hey, like you said, just a solid dude, good person. And I think with both of these guys, Damon Talbot and Doug Whaley, somebody that always responds and gets back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so important. Doug has come on several Zooms with us and worked with aspiring scouts, and he's very giving of his time. He's willing to talk about his experiences. He's willing to give advice, and that means a lot to those people that are trying to break into the game. Rick, one aspect of the All-Star, getting back to that before we move on too much, how will NIL play into All-Star games now? I mean, that's one question. I think some of these players who've come to see themselves as valuable, their name, image, and likeness, are they going to start asking for some kind of payment or whatever to show up at these games? I mean, in the past, the pitch has always been, look, come and get scouted, come and get evaluated, come and get in front of scale. Some of these players are going to start thinking, well, listen, if I come, I'm going to bring more scouts, which is going to benefit.
Who can figure out how to legally pay guys to come participate in their All-Star game event if they want to go that route. So it'll be interesting to see. One last one, Neil. I know you got to go, but 20 agent changes amongst the veteran player community. You said it's kind of a high number. Any idea why that might be? Any correlation? Were these guys that were kind of with the quote-unquote middle-class, smaller firms that got scooped up by bigger firms? Have you dug below, beneath the surface yet?
I haven't years he's been in the league. That's a pretty high number. That's a pretty volatile player. Why? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but it always intrigues me to see players that change that often. I mean, it's usually a rather lasting relationship. What does he see? What is he looking for that he hasn't been able to find? And I don't know what the answer is there. He's changed over to Steinberg Sports most recently. Will he be there long term? It's anybody's guess. Based on looking at his history, I hope they're not getting too complacent over there because he may be already looking around again. So it's always interesting to kind of track these agent changes and the players that seem to be the ones that want to make transitions most often. And you don't see players that have had the kind of success that Smith has had that are making changes that often. But again, they're always those players are a little different from everybody else.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird. So we'll continue to monitor that through InsideTheLeague.com because nobody does a better job than Neil Stratton. He joins us here each and every Thursday around the 9:40 a.m. Eastern time. Of course, checking in from the Houston, Katy, Texas area. Anything else, Neil, before we wrap things up?
I'm just being like you and Dame, man. I'm going to have the TV on in the background when I'm not watching it really closely. I'm at least have it on and listening, kind of monitoring. And this is the best. This is always such a special weekend because you can barely change the channel without finding another game. And there's just so many games being broadcast. There's something for everyone. There's almost whenever you want to watch, there's something going on, and then you can kind of catch the replay at another time if you miss one. So it's a pretty fun time to be a football fan.
It is. It's a great time of year. In fact, college football every day this week, even bleeding into the Sunday, I believe, with Florida State and Notre Dame on a Sunday night matchup. So, hey, Neil, a lot of fun. If you want more from Neil Stratton, make sure you go to Amazon.com, pick up both of his books while you're there. It's almost two for the price of one. It's so affordable and feasible. Scout Speak, of course, Tales from the Scouting Trails, if you want that unique perspective of various former GMs, executives, the late Danton Bartow being one of those evaluators that drops a ton of knowledge in that great book. Really a fun read. It's so good you'll read it twice. All of my staff does. And then, of course, Moving the Chains. If you want to be in the know with how the draft process works, the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty, the all-star game process and decision-making that Neil just elaborated on, 6 games. How do you make sense of it all? Go get that. And, hey, happy Labor Day weekend, Neil.
Thanks, brother. Same to you and Sam. Y'all stay safe up there. Hopefully the waters recede. Hopefully you didn't have any damage there. We'll keep you in our daily prayers down here in Houston.
No, we appreciate that. Say hello to the family for us and stay safe and hopefully dry down there in Texas.
For sure, brother. Have a great weekend.
You too, man. Make sure you go follow Neil at Inside the League. So, hey, great show today. We're an hour of power into the mix. I got some picks, though. I want to try to get some picks going here for you. And since Big Law will be back in the saddle tomorrow for a Football Friday affair, and he'll be back also with the kickoff of our tailgate show this Saturday with some of the Prospect Profit boys, Lorenz Leinweber, Alec Polito, and multiple guests from the Sports Illustrated platform and various beat writers hopping on the tailgate show on Saturday, which means I won't see you guys again until Monday with good old as we kind of get into the first official week of NFL action. So I'm going to give you my picks here for the college football weekend real quick. I've got a lot of games to cover. I'm going to tell you what's on record. We're going to see at the end of the year how good RIC does over here, and we're going to go with the spread this year. So um, I know last year we just did strictly winners. This year I'm going to try to hook you up, put a couple bucks in your pocket. Let's see how we do. All right. First one, of course, I'm going to talk about Temple at Rutgers. I'm not touching this one if I'm out in Vegas, but I will just comment on it. I like Rutgers to win. Man, Vegas, I never thought I'd see it. They're higher on this team than I am. For them to win by 3 scores, which essentially 14 and a half points to me is probably 3 scores, that's a tough deal. I don't know if the gap is that far yet. I do think Rutgers is going to come out on top with the sold out stadium. Boy, when's the last time that happened? I'd love to know. A sold out stadium at High Point Solution Stadium there in Piscataway, New Jersey. It's going to be a fun one. Buckle up. This one's 6:30 tonight. I'm not going on the record there. I'm just telling you, watch out for them Jersey boys. All right. Coastal Carolina at the Citadel is tonight. Again, I'm not touching this one. 35 points. I don't want to mess with that. Coastal will probably cover that, though. This one will be on the record. You got Gus Malzahn in UCF taking on Boise State, laying the 6. This spread has kind of been creeping up 4, 5, 6. I think UCF, they're just so high powered. To win by 1 touchdown, I think is doable. It might happen late in the game, but we're going to go on the record. UCF officially the first pick of the season. Shout out to my Wagner boys. We're just going to say a little prayer for them as they travel up to Buffalo. Buffalo laying 43.5. Again, not touching it. Just wanted to give a shout out to Coach Masella there at Wagner. NC State. Okay, this is the best bet for me tonight. NC State laying 19 points against USF. I think they might cover this one at halftime. Okay, so I'm going to go NC State as the best bet for tonight. Minus 19. ECU at Appalachian State. Dane mentioned what a great matchup this is. I can't believe ECU is a double-digit dog here. Upset alert. Sound the sirens. I'll take the 10 points. If you really want to be risky and you got a little Play-Doh, you might want to just say forget the points. ECU could win this game outright. Quarterback Holton Ahlers can win this game. So you might want to take the points or lay the money line, back it up with the points. I like ECU here. This is going to be on the record with tonight's matchup. So that's 3 on the record. Ohio State at Minnesota. I think PJ Fleck will find a way to keep this closer than people are thinking. Of course, the new quarterback in Ohio State. 2 touchdowns is too much for me. I'm not touching it, though. I just wanted to highlight the games tonight. Tennessee at Bowling Green, 35 points. Again, too many for my liking. I will say I like the under here. I think it's 60.5 points. I could see Tennessee winning this thing like 35-10, 49-0, 49-10. It's still hard to see a way where you get to 60 points. So I'll go on record with the under there. And then, again, this one, Southern Utah at Arizona State. Arizona State favored by 45. Wow. I can't get involved with that nonsense. But I will say Thursday night, UCF minus 6, NC State minus 19, ECU taking the 10, and then the under in Tennessee Bowling Green, under 60.5. Those are my 4 picks on the record for Thursday night. I'll give you one for Friday. I'll be watching Michigan State at Northwestern for NFLPA Collegiate Bowl scouting purposes. Northwestern's minus 3. I think it's a coin toss game. I do think, Fitzgerald has been there so long. Michigan State still trying to, kind of rebuild the program under the new coach. I think Northwestern will cover that. I'm not going on the record with that one. I will go on the record with North Carolina. I think 5.5 is doable in Blacksburg at Virginia Tech. That'll be my one pick for Friday, and we'll lay the 5.5. That's also going to be my best bet for Friday because, hey, it's the only game I'm advising you to enhance the viewing experience on. So there's my Friday pick on the books. and we'll come back and see how we did here. But let's see now. What do we want to go on the record with? Because there's a lot of games on Saturday. Penn State at Wisconsin. I'm going to take the 5.5 just because I do think Penn State's going to win this game. I'm not confident they're going to win. I think they have a good shot to win. Would not be surprised if they win. So give me the 5.5 with Penn State at Wisconsin plus 5.5. Here's my best bet for the Saturday slate. Cincinnati minus 22.5. I think take advantage of this now. It's only going to get higher. Cincinnati, the Bearcats, they're going to be looking to prove a statement. They've got a lot of returning players back. They've got a great senior quarterback in Desmond Ridder. I believe this is going to be, again, 22.5. That might be covered at the half. That's the best bet for Saturday. We mentioned San Jose State. Could USC be on upset alert? It's a ballsy play right there. However, give me the 2 touchdowns all day. You want to spot me a 14-0 lead with the high-octane offense of the Spartans? I'll take my chances there. So we'll go on record with that one. One more on the record. Again, I'll take the 3 points with Nevada against California. And just look at the quarterback matchup. Chase Garbers versus Carson Strong. That is more than a touchdown differential, in my opinion. I think Nevada wins this game outright. Give me the 3 for the record, but I would advise you to play the money line, back it up with the 3. Hey, you may even want to get yourself a little teaser alert. So that's my 4 for Saturday. Penn State plus 5.5. Cincinnati minus 22.5. San Jose State plus 14. And then Nevada plus 3 are my college football plays of the week. Best bets being Cincinnati on Saturday, North Carolina on Friday, and NC State tonight. I will say, one last game, not on the record. Clemson minus 3 at Georgia. Wow, what a week 1 matchup this is. And they're going to talk more about these games on Football Friday tomorrow, and then as well as the Saturday tailgate show where the boys will go really in depth on the prospects you need to be watching in these games. But I think Georgia has a really good opportunity to steal a game here, and we liked what we saw from the DJ quarterback Ugalele at Clemson there when he stepped in for Trevor Lawrence. However, JT Daniels played pretty well there down the stretch. And I think that this game could actually be a shootout. I could see something wild and crazy, 45-42, something to that effect. And if I had to lean one way, while I think Clemson is probably the best college football team on paper, I think Georgia has a shot. I really do. I think Georgia has a shot here because of that feeling of desperation. Clemson has enough cachet that even if they run the table, if they lose to Georgia and they run the table, they can still make the college football playoffs. I just don't know. I don't know if Georgia can pull that off because they still have to play Alabama and that SEC gauntlet of a schedule. So that's a look ahead for some of the games. Monday we'll have a Bills beat reporter on. I know Ralph will like that one. I know we have the Clemson beat reporter, I think, coming on for the tailgate show. Again, Lorenz Lineweber, Alec Polito, Big Law, Lawrence Johnson kicking it off Saturday. That'll be from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then how about tomorrow, Samantha, for the Football Friday show? Do we have any confirmed guests that we want to put on the radar here? A big shout out to Samantha producing the show from my Mom Lou's house. Thomas Brew from Indiana, good spot. He did a great job with us. Bill Huber from the Green Bay Packers beat will be guests on the show tomorrow. We appreciate you tuning in. This was Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. Season 2, Episode 23, I believe, Part 282. We're trying over here. Getting closer to that 300th episode. Wow. How about that? So, hey, last reminder, ELF Championship, September 26th. Tickets on sale. Go check it out at Ticketmaster. Thank you, Craig Smith. Appreciate you showing the love here as we get through hurricane season at the Jersey Shore and the Gulf Coast region. And then hubfootball.com. Don't wait on opportunity. Slots will fill up fast. It's the truth. So get in the game. If you want to be a scout, go check out the scout camp at hubfootball.com/scout-camp. We can't stop. We won't stop. I appreciate everybody tuning in. For all of our guests this week, Dane Vandernat and Neil Stratton today. We had a slew of people, Amanda Ruler and Madre London. What a great spot that was yesterday. And again, Chris O'Leary. We had Tuesday, of course, the great Russell Landy, who will be out there overseeing the Hub Scout Camp. And then Monday, a rarity. We missed it. We don't miss too many days here on the State of Football. We're here with you on all the holidays. But I had to get out of Boston, man. The traffic was just brutal going up. I had to escape clean, which meant I had to leave early, and we just couldn't scramble it together. But hopefully you are out there scrambling some breakfast somewhere, getting ready for this great Labor Day weekend. We talked about what an affair it's going to be with the CFL's biggest weekend, the European League of Football's playoff, picture coming to fruition. The NFL Cutdown practice squad roster assemblation continues over the weekend as college football revs up and goes balls to the wall every single day here through Sunday. And we will be back to talk about it all on Monday with Ralph Ventry. Enjoy Football Friday tomorrow with Big Law. You have him for a doubleheader. He's coming back at you Saturday with the Tailgate Show. We appreciate tuning in here at the NFLDraftBible.com, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. Your home for real football talk in the mornings. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.
I'm Sandy Charles, and I'm now joined by New York Giants publisher for Giants Country, Patricia Traina. Patricia, the Giants announced today that they are retiring Michael Strahan's number 92, to be retired on November 28th against the Eagles. What does Michael Strahan mean to this Giants franchise?
Oh my gosh, Michael Strahan is probably one of the most charismatic and good players ever to walk through the door in the modern era for this Giants franchise. We're talking about a guy who is the franchise sack leader, 141.5 sacks, leads the franchise in postseason sacks with 9.5 sacks, just a spiritual leader, a captain, famous for the "we're going to stomp you out" chant, which everybody loved. So Michael Strahan, Hall of Famer, a beloved figure in the franchise, and just a tremendous human being. A lot of people don't get to know him as well, but he is just an amazing person, and I'm very blessed to have covered him during his time with the Giants.
How appropriate is it that they are going to retire his jersey on the same night they're playing the Eagles?
Oh, very appropriate. I couldn't think of a better team to do that against. The battles between Strahan and John Runyon back in the day, classic. And here's a stat for you. Of all the teams Strahan faced, his 21.5 sacks in the regular season against the Eagles top any other opponent he faced. So you couldn't have picked a better opponent to do this against.
Speaking of Giants defenders, the Giants defense was a bright spot last season. So where do they match up in 2021?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, they made some improvements to the defensive secondary because they want to play more man coverage, obviously. They are getting a couple guys back on the pass rush in Lorenzo Carter, O'Shane Ximenez. The feeling is they're going to be able to do a lot more than what they were able to do last year. And they were pretty good last year. They finished 12th overall in the NFL overall on defense. And they were good against third down. They were good against, prohibiting opponents from scoring. So they have high expectations and they think they could be even better, maybe a top 10, if not a top 5 unit this year. They just need to stay healthy and they just need to put it all together. But I'll tell you what, I like the direction they're headed and I like Patrick Graham's creativity. He's, of course, the defensive coordinator, and I'm really excited to see what they roll out this year.
Awesome, Patricia. So much great insight. Congratulations to Michael Strahan. Again, this was Patricia Traina with Giants Country, and I'm Sandy Charles. We'll see you next time.